welcome to the second session of this conference. It is right now my pleasure to introduce the second panel of the day, a panel dedicated to understanding how space-related initiatives and applications can help us address, or at least mitigate, important humanitarian crises and challenges on Earth. From satellite communications and observation satellites to financial and administrative work conducted at the level of national agencies and private agents, this panel aims to give us a better understanding of how the space sector can have a profound impact on natural and human problems. For those who participated or even sponsored the 2023 Spanish edition of the Cassini Hackathon, you already are very well aware about how space, and in particular European space technologies, such as Galileo or Copernicus, can contribute to humanitarian aid and international development. With our moderator and a great lineup of speakers, we're now going to explore this theme a bit further. So I'm now really excited to see how this theme is discussed with our next speakers and our moderator, Dr. Jordi Corbera, physicist and head of the observation department at the Cartographic and Geological Institute of Catalonia. If you want to come join me. Dr. Corbera served as the chair of the Spanish Institute of Navigation for several years and has worked for numerous European agencies and projects. And in his current job, he leads a team of 20 employees to better understand how to transform research-born ideas into products to monitor ground movements, urban sustainability, or climate change. Besides his position at the Cartographic and Geological Institute, Dr. Corbera also combines his job with a faculty position for the Polytechnic University of Catalonia, where he teaches radio navigation systems. And in addition, he is at the forefront of the NewSpace Catalonia initiative, where he is responsible for designing and developing its geospatial data platform. So with his professional and academic expertise, I am convinced that we're set for an incredibly interesting panel on how space technologies and their downstream applications can help us improve our management capabilities of humanitarian crises. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Corbera and the rest of the speakers to this stage. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks to everybody, to the audience, to attend this panel. I like to start my presentations as a chairman with two apologies. First is that my fluency in English, but I try to do my best. And the second is I'm not sure if I'm the right chairman, because sometimes I'm not so efficient or competent just to following rules, protocols, and presentations and so on. So it's a pleasure to introduce María José Escorihuela from isardSAT. Is responsible of the development and the validation of models and algorithms to retrieve geophysical variables from satellite, from space data, and technical leader of international research and development at isardSAT. And sure, it's also a pleasure to introduce Fèlix Capella from Open Arms, a specialist in marketing and fundraising. For more than 20 years collaborating with different social projects, and in particular since February this year, in Open Arms. So let me just 5 minutes in terms to introduce the framework of the subject of this roundtable. 1975. I was just 10 years old, so calculate, okay? The rock band, or maybe the progressive rock band, Supertramp released the album Crisis, What Crisis? What a question. So the answer is quite clear. Crisis, yeah. What crisis? Climatic, humanitarian, environmental, social, economical. So in some times, or in some words, it's it's a paradox because crisis is a term, or it just is a contradiction, because crisis, it's not a definition, a long-term or a common situation. It's an exceptional situation, but currently looks like that we live, unfortunately, in a permanent state of crisis in terms of environmental, economic, and social, or humanitarian one. So the idea of this roundtable is just that I assume some assumptions in the space sector, on the new space sector, and I would like to know if you are agree or not with this sentence or these assumptions. Okay, so just to move to the first one, you know that it sounds in the different scenarios, events, and so on, that the space technologies and derived products and services, so remote sensing, monitoring infrastructures, mapping, and so on, can play a key role to offer decision support tools for a better management over a wide range of scenarios of crisis. So, do you really agree with this statement?
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for the invitation. I don't know if the people know in the room that Open Arms does. We just rescue people from the sea, and we bring these people to a safe port. So we are working in Mediterranean Sea, in the middle of it, and we think the technology could help us a lot to find these people. They are traveling to find a best place to live, and also to connect our boats to internet, to medicine, also the media. So yeah, in our case, it could be really important to have technology in our job.
You say could be.
Yeah, because it's not now.
It's not now.
Yeah, but with satellites, we know about the images that if we have now one image of the sea, and to know where these boats, the small boats we call dinghies, and it's really hard to find them. Maybe we are 1 day or 2 days looking for them, and it's plenty of boats now. In this moment, someone is dying in the sea, but no one is seeing them. No one will help them. No one will write their names in a list. No one will tell their families that they are dying now. And that's why we need the images to know where they are now.
Probably from science and research and taking your requirements, isardSAT is a company that could, historical, has translate some users' needs or just the research and development into products and service on this way.
In fact, what we do is to work so that the people don't need, or at least not urgently need, to migrate. We have been involved in projects that help to prevent food security. We have been involved with FAO in the fight against desert locusts that just 2 years ago provoked this big migration in the Yemen area, because it was jointly a draft. This is one of the things we monitor with desert locusts that can eat the whole cereal of a country in several days. So what we do is to work in this kind of projects where we can help the countries and the organizations in charge to fight themselves to mitigate the effects of extreme events and also climate change. We have also been involved in the modeling of malaria. So all of this gives the tools to different countries so they can prepare. For instance, Desert Locust, the fight is organized 2 months ahead of when they start seeing their signs of a swarm organizing. So this gives the tools for prevent these migrations. I'm afraid the resolution you need to capture the dinghy, it's military technology. We don't have access to this kind of data yet. Maybe with the constellation of new satellites now spreading NewSpace, might be.
But in terms of resolution, you are talking about the spatial or the temporal resolution. Which is more critical for you, Félix, on your opinion?
Both.
Both.
Because if you tell me that a boat was yesterday on the sea in some place, now for sure that maybe they have died. So we need a delay of a few hours. Maybe we can know which direction they are moving. And we can see, okay, they are moving at 5 kilometers per hour and they are going to the north. And we can find them. And also the resolution, because these boats, maybe they are like 10 meters long, but you don't know if it's a fisherman or it's a migrant boat.
Okay, so it's
resolution
critical,
could be,
special
both things are important.
Yeah.
But it's more to know where they are and with the less time of delay,
So that's the latency of the near real time. It's one of the main drivers in our subjects of Earth observation. It's more and more demanding the latency and responsiveness just to offer products and service. So in terms of the end user or just upscale these solutions and service and so on, I say that a model based on a first world providing products and service is not sustainable. So it becomes paramount to develop training and capacity building programs for a right development of competence on site, where the end user is, or broadly speaking, the public administration, but locally. So you agree with that? It's so critical to develop capacity building tools on site?
Yeah, it's very important to develop solutions, but we don't. Our job is just to rescue people. Yeah. We don't have the capacity to develop nothing outside the boats. Yeah. So we need help from everyone, because our project, we are the ones that we are putting the hand on the sea, but we need all the people and all the companies helping us develop, trying to be more faster doing our job.
Sure. Yeah. And you have experience on that, María José?
Yes. We frequently work with other countries across the Mediterranean. Morocco, Algeria, all the countries in the Sahel, for instance, in this project of Desert Locust, and Tunisia also. I was recently in a panel also in Tunisia, in a conference, and one of the points was exactly this. We need to share the data, so open data is one thing, and also the cooperation, because for instance, in agriculture, the problems they are facing now, it's the problems we will be facing in 5 years, maybe, because they're already experiencing the increase in temperatures, the lack of precipitation that is just starting here, but they have been experiencing that for 10 years. So this exchange in experience and as much, so we have no time to keep our data on our hands. We need to advance together as much as possible. So these are 2 points key for for development in both sense.
You
Interesting.
say to cooperate or just to share data, experience, and so on, but yesterday I listened that if you solve some problem in some area and so on, you can extrapolate and this life cycle of your solution could be extrapolated or upscale anywhere and so on. Do you really agree with that?
Well, this is the principle of using remote sensing data, right? That data is acquired in homogeneous way. So what you see in one place, it's homogeneous in the other. So if you develop a model that is not site dependent, yes.
And you, Félix, maybe you have some experience or some comments in this point too, in terms that if you develop capacity on site.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this administration, this public sector, these authorities, how can you use this technology, data information, maybe not in the right?
Yeah, the problem is that I know everyone knows that it's dying so many people on the sea, and if most of the people in Europe it's doing nothing, that's the answer to your question, because all the people could help us, and no one is doing. Just the people, the citizens are helping Open Arms. Some governments, now here with the Unitat and some governments are helping us, but a few of them. The big governments in Europe are not helping our job. They prefer to not see what's happening on the sea. And I'm sure they know, they have a lot of information of how many boats are in the sea in this moment, but they don't share this information. Some years ago, like 5 years ago, they shared some of the information.
Who shared this?
The Italian government shared with us the information that they have, and they say you should go to that boat, but now they are not doing that. So the NGOs that we are working in the Mediterranean Sea, we share the information between us, and then we organize who is doing that job. But in this moment, there are only today, I think, 4 boats. And 5 years ago, we were
for rescue boats.
Rescue boats.
Yeah.
And 5 years ago, there were like 15. But now there is no money because it's the cost of each boat it's really high. And now there are 4 boats, and so that means that more people is dying.
Yeah, just dealing with the private sector. In my humble opinion, I think that just taking into account some lectures and new missions and so on, that exists a certain trend on the development of space missions, assets, and so on, from the private sector related to environmental issues. For instance, 3 or 4 months ago, I was talking with a guy from the USA administration and saying me that close to the 50% of space or new space missions focus on the monitoring of greenhouse gases comes from the private sector. So data sharing between the private sector and humanitarian agencies, I think that it is still very
we are
limited.
Trying. Maybe it's our fault because this is the first year that we are speaking with the private sector, but some companies are scared about what we are doing. So, and they prefer to help other projects than our project.
Double use projects?
No, we don't have many private companies helping us. Maybe, 5.
Yeah.
And this is sad for us, but one part of it's our fault because it's the first year that we are approaching to the companies, but the companies don't come to us for help.
I think this sort of forum could be nice.
That's why I'm here.
What's your experience, María José? You are agree that there exists this trend from the private sector to be more involved in environmental issues and so on, or just is because it's business?
This is the only thing we do, to be involved in environmental issues. So, yes, it's a matter of principles. I mean,
yeah, but okay, maybe I can explain better in terms that you are sure on the downstream service and so on. I'm in particular talking about the space segment, the development of new satellites, new missions, just really focus on environment issues.
Well, that's why we do what we do. We don't do this to, for instance, military purposes. We have never collaborated in oil or gas industry. So, I mean, if we would be doing what we do just for business, we would be not doing just environmental related projects. So, yeah, in our case, it's clear.
Yeah. Okay, so we have another lecturer online, that it's Mr. Tobias Biermann, who is in charge of the Copernicus Emergency Management Service. The Copernicus Emergency Management Service is the main provider of satellite data, public open access data, and complementary geoinformation for a better management of natural and man-made emergencies and humanitarian crises. I think that Mr. Tobias Biermann is online, so if you are so kind, just to introduce the Copernicus Emergency Service, in particular in terms of lessons learned and new improvements and so on, just to share with us, just to improve our feelings and to help people that need this sort of service. So, Mr. Tobias.
Buenos dias, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. No, thanks for the nice introduction and the good discussion already about crisis. I'm Tobias Biermann. I work here at the European Commission in Brussels in the Director General Defense and Space Industry in the Copernicus unit. And I'm responsible for the Copernicus Emergency Management Service. I would like to start my presentation with this slide. You can see that because the Copernicus program is now really well developed, and one of the important tasks we also is that we have the climate service, and we really use and really can confirm with our Copernicus data that we are in a climate crisis, because in this session we talk really about crises. And now really the temperature measurement from Copernicus is really the reference method now really to confirm that we are in a climate crisis. And we have even now every month new records. And even this year we had the hottest summer on Earth ever. And Copernicus is really the method now to prove these things. We would talk about crisis, and important for me it's that it's not only about environmental crisis. We just talked before about migration and refugees. In the Commission, we have a civil protection mechanism to deal with all crises, and this is for me one really good example where Europe works together. All the EU member states cooperate in this issues of civil protection. On this slide, you can see the new the civil protection mechanism. And what is for me interesting to show on this slide, before in the last years, we had about 20 activations per year where we had a crisis or a disaster and where the European Commission coordinated the support. But now we can see here in the last years, we just jumped really from about 20 crises per year to about 100 crises per year. So we really see that the climate crisis triggered other crises, and there's a lot to do really to cope with all these crises, and this is coordinated at the European Commission. I would now like to jump to the European Space Program. On this slide you can see that one element here, one component is Copernicus Earth observation, but of course the space program of the EU is much bigger. We also have the navigation part, Galileo and EGNOS. and also the communication, GovSatcom communication between European countries. This will be expanded soon by IRIS², also more satellites for communication. And these different components are also linked. I would like to mention here that under Galileo, we are developing now an European warning satellite services, also like an early warning system that we can use the Copernicus and Galileo satellites together to have an early warning system. But now I would like to come to the EU Earth observation program about emergencies. That is one part of 6 other services we have. And as we spoke about migration, we also have the security services that work together also with Frontex on these questions of migration. And we use our own European Sentinel satellites for Earth observation. But of course, this is also linked with in situ measurements and also with contributing mission where we buy other data from also satellites for these services. And important, the EU Copernicus program provides full, free and open data. So it's not really restricted. The Copernicus program is a civil program and a lot of data are really free, available for everybody. We talk about emergencies. So we have now since several years the Copernicus Emergency Management Service that is coordinated at the European Commission by the Joint Research Center. They run the services 24 hours every day, and they really deal with all disasters and all phases of disaster management. And they are also in cooperation with the European Response Center in DG ECHO. What are we doing with the Copernicus Emergency Management Service? We mainly produce rapid maps. In case of a disaster, we really use as soon as possible available satellites to prepare rapid mapping. But of course, this is also expanded by risk and recovery, so the phase before and after the disaster. So we can, as soon as possible, as we have an activation of the service and an identified area of interest, we provide satellite images and satellite information to the concerned civil protection authorities. We also work in these 3 areas specifically. I will explain a bit more about floods, fires, and droughts. And of course, we do also some exposure mapping, meaning we use also other available maps and data and to build very good civil protection usable products. To give a bit of picture, as I mentioned, we have so many disasters, these services really more used. On this slide, you can see just for the last 3 months that we had 18 activations. We got yesterday an activation for forest fires in Bolivia. So we can see here that we have a lot of activations for floods and fires mainly, but also for other types of disasters. Always when there is a crisis, member states or delegations or others can activate the services to require satellite information via the service, and we provide as soon as possible images and pictures. As said, we have this on-demand mapping for disasters, where in case something happens, we really provide as soon as possible that disaster data and images. But of course, we have 3 supporting systems, one for floods, one for fires, and one for droughts. And this will I explain a bit more in detail. For floods, always we use a lot of meteorological and hydrological data to support this. And ideally, we really try when we see there will be a hurricane or a storm coming up, we can really already use all this meteorological data to plan this. And we have a quite good flood forecasting system that already can use data and provide information before really the flood event. And after the flood event, of course, we do then the damage assessment also using satellite data. We have a similar approach for forest fires. We have the forest fire information system, and we prepare maps. And during the summer fire season, we have an early warning system for fires that is updated twice per day, really to provide information in all the areas where we really have high fire risk. And last element, we have also the European Drought Observatory. So we also can especially measure with satellites moisture, humidity, and then already identify where we have areas with risk for droughts, like, for example, in the Amazon region in Latin America. As said, our information is not purely satellite data that are nearly real-time, but we also use further in situ and other data like Eurostat maps and the global human settlement layer to really, when we have an identified area, to already know what is in this area, what are the settlements, how many people will be there, and this all is then combined in the emergency services. And with that, I would like to explain that it's not really only a mapping system for the disaster, but we do more and more really to acquire data before a disaster. We work actively during the activation, but of course we also use the information for post-activation, where we have different services. For example, on this slide, you can see when you have a volcanic eruption, we can then model with the system what other areas could be affected by lava streams in case of a volcano eruption. With that, I think I would like to be short and close that. Last slide I would like now to show is that this is again embedded in a wider EU system. And we are working now on the Union Disaster Resilient Goals. So meaning we do not just work on response with our services towards preparedness and prevention, but we really have a wider strategy now really to have the anticipation, preparedness, alerts, respond and secure. And this we do currently with 10 different scenarios together with the civil protection mechanism. And everybody knows you can deal with disasters only when you have really a good strategy. There's no glory in prevention, but of course this prevention part needs to be strengthened, and we really make our emergency system stronger, that we really say we don't only react to disasters, but we also work strongly now on this new resilience agenda. With that, I would like to comment. I hope it was a nice short introduction into our EU work on emergencies. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Tobias. We have, you say questions? We have questions, so
Yeah.
please, Fèlix.
Hello, Tobias. Nice to meet you. Congratulations for your job. And my question, you should know which one could be. I don't know if you know that this year in the Mediterranean Sea have died 2,500 persons. This is the body that someone have found. And I don't know if you have the data of the boats that are traveling around Mediterranean Sea in this moment.
Tobias?
I work in the emergency service, and we really do only civil information, so that is open information. I mentioned we have another service, the security service, that deals also with migration and Frontex,
Yeah.
but I have this information at the moment not available. We are working on that, but really we don't have really the details to have an overview about refugee boats in the Mediterranean. This information, unfortunately, we don't have available.
Okay, so I think that's quite important. So in the future, thank you for this information.
María José?
That's fine.
No questions. So thanks, thanks, Tobias. I think if I can, yeah. So certainly the environmental, human crisis and so on underpins any sort of creativity from art, like this picture of refugees crossing the French border during the Spanish Civil War, to now from paintings, photographs, to space technology. So, according to the Mr. Tobias' explanation and so on, and dealing with the state of the art of the NewSpace strategies and technologies. I would like to know your opinion, Fèlix or María José, in which way you improve or which will be your demand in terms of all the added value from space, from data to service, which will be your demand, your main requirements, the right.
It's in our case, it's really easy. I was the explanations of Tobias talking about disasters in Europe, and it seems that 2,000 people dying in the sea. It seems it's not a disaster for Europe, and it's strange for me.
Yeah.
And we just need the images to know the images or the information or where these boats are in every day, every hour. Yeah. That's the only request that we have. We know we need the data of the dinghies that are trying to get to Europe, and then help to save these people.
Yeah. And María José,
yeah.
Which you demand?
Yeah, I have clear demand. So yeah, well, the thing is, it's good to map a flood or a draft. It's nice. It would be nicer not to have it. Similar that it would be nicer not to having people migrating, right? So the climate change is gonna impact more in the south, but also ourselves. So I think that the best thing we can do is to be serious on that and start doing things. So it has been fully demonstrated what we have to do and start working on that.
Yeah, sure. Maybe it's now out of our time or the scope of this roundtable. What I am also very worried about the quality and the integrity of data and information that it's provided. And also, as Mr. Tobias mentioned, that we need additional information on an additional source of information and so on, and in the future to validate the integrity, the validity of this data to integrate with space assets and so on.
I don't know why you say that. I think the data is already of good quality and.
But maybe. Yeah, but it's quite difficult to provide only service and solutions and maintain these service and solutions only with the space data. We need other geoinformation, local information, local data sets, in situ data, etc., just to validate the quality, the integrity, the source of this data, in particular, for instance, in human crisis and so on. It's an issue, no?
Yes, well, as well, the Copernicus climate services, they started long ago when there was not, the Copernicus was not fully deployed. So that's why they have been traditionally using also models and other kind of data. A clear example is soil moisture, for instance. Now they have satellites that deliver quality satellite soil moisture data, and they could switch to satellite data. But of course, as well, it's always good to have good in situ monitoring to validate this data, of course.
Yeah, but when you need, in particular in our experience, when you need to validate or just to provide, and you need additional geoinformation or socioeconomical metrics and so on, just to provide decision support tools, the quality of this data in some cases are not really good. Or the sources are...
We don't have data, so the data that we have, it's the data that we create. Yeah. So no one is helping us in our job. Yeah, so that's we share our data with other organizations, but we are a few of them.
Okay, thanks. So a few centuries Before Jesus Christ, the philosopher Platon said that necessity is the main driver of innovation. So the philosopher used the word innovation. It's not so new. So I think that, and thanks to our lecturs, our participation, Mr. Tobias, and so on, and in particular, in my humble opinion, I don't know which is the return of investment, which is the revenues, if the end user is private or not. But I can imagine another issue more necessary than just to try to management of the humanitarian environmental crisis, just to do a better planner for the humans.
Yeah.
Maybe for ants it's okay, but for humans we need a great challenge to do. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, one thing.
Yeah,
sorry.
sure.
We have one of our boats here in el port de Barcelona, at Moll of de la Fusta. It's 400 meters from here. So you are invited to visit it if you are interested.
In July we have this experience, and it was really amazing and
so
very
it's
fun.
another boat. It's smaller than the one that you saw, but
we visit a great one. So
yeah, it's that's great also, but it's just 400 meters from here, and it's open to visit if you want it.
Okay, thanks. Thanks a lot to the audience, and in particular to the organizers to be so patient with us and with me. Thanks a lot.